Let's have a quick look at the papers. Claire Williams is joining us here on set with a look of what's happening in the headlines in France today. The paper's really dominated by François Hollande's climb down, Claire, over his planned constitutional reforms.
Absolutely. The papers were all talking about this Hollande climb down. Of course, so Hollande dropped his plans to strip convicted terrorists of their French nationality. It is a climb down for Hollande because after the November 13th attacks, he said he would do his best to change the constitution so that law could come in. But he's had to say, nope, it's not going to happen. He didn't get the support he needed from the right wing, and he didn't get the support he needed from within his own left-wing party. So we can start now. A very unusual thing happened today, this morning. 4 different papers all used the same photo of François Hollande.
That makes a change.
Hollande in the Élysée Palace, walking away, a profile picture of him looking rather forlorn, rather unhappy about what he's had to do, announced that he's not going to go ahead with this project. The photo is the same. The headlines are pretty similar too. We've got Aujourd'hui en France, tout ça pour rien, all that for nothing. Now, of course, 4 months have gone by since the November 13th attacks. And we've heard a lot. Hollande has been going on about this change to the constitution for that time. He's been going on and on. He states a lot. You know, there are elections coming up next year, and he states a lot of his presidency on getting these changes done, and it's not going to happen. La Croix calls the whole thing a fiasco, saying, you know, we never see this in France. We never see a president make such a U-turn after having been so headstrong and full on for something for so long. So it's rare. It's very, very rare.
You found something even more critical of him, if it could be more critical. This is in Le Figaro, perhaps not surprisingly, the right-wing paper.
Absolutely. The right-wing paper, Le Figaro, has an editorial, Le Gâchis, the wasted. It says Hollande has wasted France's time. He's wasted French people's time. He's wasted his own time. And really his announcement yesterday was a little bit desperate, actually. It was a little bit, this is according to Le Figaro, it was desperate because, you know, after the attacks in November, he did his best to assure people that he could, you know, French people, that he could protect them. And climbing down, he's sort of saying, we're still going to protect you. We're still going to do what we can. We're going to make France safe. But this kind of, you know, example of him not being able to make the changes he wants to make doesn't look good, and it makes him look weak, according to Le Figaro.
L'Humanité, they haven't dedicated their entire front page to François Hollande, have they?
No, they haven't. I mean, they've got a bit at the top. L'Humanité is pleased about this. L'Humanité is pleased that Hollande's dropped it. They call it a shameful operation. Has finally been buried. But they didn't give François Hollande the honour of the entire front page. They're dedicating their front page to the strikes, le grève. That's what's happening today in France. The Loi El Khomri. So Myriam El Khomri is France's Labour Minister. She wants to make big changes to the labour law. She wants to make the job market more flexible. She wants to make it easier to hire people, fire people. And Humanité is completely against this law, as one would expect. It's a communist paper. So Humanité is calling French people out into the street, go protest, go show, you know, Myriam El Khomri that you're against this law.
OK, we shall see if they do or not. It's pouring with rain here in Paris today, but you never know. Now, let's move on to something completely different. South of France, in fact, this newspaper, Nice-Matin, has a warning about the migrant crisis facing France.
Yeah, there's a very interesting piece in Nice-Matin this morning. Obviously, it's a local paper down on the French Riviera. What's interesting is that, you know, there's a pile-up of migrants on the Italy-France border. That's between the towns of Ventimiglia in Italy and Menton in France. And Nice-Matin basically says we hear so much about the migrant crisis in Calais. We hear a lot about the camps in and around Paris, but we never hear in the newspapers about what's happening in the south of France. This other front line, in the words of Nice-Matin, another front line in Europe's migrant crisis is happening down on the French Riviera. Now, basically what it is migrants arrive in Italy by boat after crossing the Mediterranean. They have no plans to stay in Italy. They don't want to stay in Italy. So they're trying to move northwards up into France, potentially eventually up into Calais, or to stay in France. And the EU Dublin rules goes that because they first arrived in Italy, it's up to Italy to decide whether or not they're going to grant them asylum. And in the meantime, these migrants are trying to get across the border and they keep getting arrested. French police arresting them just as they are. It's very similar to what's happening in Calais, between Calais and the UK, with migrants trying to jump on lorries and get under the channel. It's very similar. Migrants trying to jump on trains in Italy that cross over the border into France, arrested once they get into France. There is according to Nice-Matin, there is 60% more arrests in the first 3 months of this year than there was last year. In the first 3 months of last year. And it's probably only going to get worse because the weather's getting warmer, the the migrants are going to come in greater numbers over the next few months.
A growing problem there in the south of France, according to Nice-Matin. Claire, thank you very much. Claire Williams with the French papers on France 24. Now, in the next half an hour here on the programme, we've got some inspiring words between South Korea and France as the two countries begin celebrations to mark 130 years of diplomatic relations. A special report for you in the next half hour from Seoul, so stay with us for that.